Hi guys, it's MVJ and welcome to the Season 6 Lee Sin Jungle Guide. So I hope after you finish this guide you will have a pretty good understanding of Lee Sin, his abilities, leveling order, jungle clear, etc, stuff like that, and you will be able to put all that stuff that you've learned from this guide into practice, take him into some normal games. And a little word of warning, he is actually pretty difficult to play, so he's not like a pick up and play champion like you can just first game, understand him straight away. He will take quite a long time to get used to, and like his mechanics and stuff like that. You also don't have to be some real big, like challenger god Lee Sin to actually perform well on him, but it does help if you have like strong mechanics already and you can pull off some of the pretty cool stuff. It can help you win games, but it's not a 100% necessary thing. But word of warning, again, he is pretty difficult, so don't expect to get him in your first game. But he is an incredibly rewarding champion if you do put that time in and all those games to actually learn him and get his mechanics down. So anyway guys, hope you do enjoy the guide, hope this does help someone, and on with the guide. Lee Sin is a strong early game aggressive jungler. Typically with Lee Sin, you're going to be wanting to play aggressive early on and secure a lead for your team, allowing you to snowball and win the game. He can either be played as an assassin or somewhat tanky bruiser, although he's not really played that much as an assassin since he is incredibly squishy when played like this, and as a jungler he's going to get instantly blown up and your team is left at a 4v5 situation. As a more tanky bruiser style, he can peel pretty well, he's also got pretty decent damage and can kill carries. Although it is worthy to note that if you do become incredibly skilled with Lee Sin, you can play him as an assassin and your kick will do around 1200 damage when played with the full AD itemization. This means that if you kick the enemy AD carry or their mid laner, if they're reasonably squishy, they are pretty much dead already. Although I wouldn't recommend playing Lee Sin like this just yet, I would definitely work on getting your mechanics down at a core fundamental level and understanding Lee Sin generally and how to play the game, etc, stuff like that, before you actually do transition into more of assassin playstyle. And generally I do believe anyway he's more useful in like a sort of tanky bruiser kind of style anyway, where he can peel and also still do damage. The assassin playstyle is really risky and you can mess it up quite easily and potentially even lose the game for your team very easily. Moving on to Lee Sin's abilities, this is where you will learn that Lee Sin is an incredibly difficult champion. Unlike most champions, he actually has 7 abilities, with each ability being split into 2 parts, apart from his ultimate, which is only 1. Alongside this, you'll also note that Lee Sin's abilities cost energy. The maximum amount of energy that Lee Sin can have is 200. His energy bar will refill over time. Lee Sin's passive is Flurry. Whenever he uses an ability, he gains increased attack speed for the next 2 basic attacks. Landing these 2 basic attacks on an enemy will refund energy to Lee Sin. The first basic attack that you land will refund 20 energy and the second will refund 10. It is crucial for Lee Sin to be landing basic attacks between his abilities, if not he's going to be running out of energy in skirmishes or just while clearing the jungle. The first part of Lee Sin's Q is Sonic Wave. It is a linear skill shot which deals physical damage and upon landing on an opponent will grant true sight of them for 3 seconds. You can then cast this ability again to use Resonating Strike. This means Lee Sin will dash towards whoever the Sonic Wave landed on and will deal physical damage plus a percentage of their missing health. Resonating Strike is considered an execute. You can use it for securing objectives or even stealing objectives away from the enemy jungler. Using Resonating Strike in combination with Smite means it's very difficult to steal objectives away from Lee Sin, and it also makes it easier for him to steal objectives from an enemy jungler. Lee Sin's W is Safeguard. In combination with his Q ability, this is what gives Lee Sin incredible mobility. You can use Safeguard to dash to an enemy champion or a ward. This is the ability that makes the famous insect move possible. You'll see it in many Lee Sin highlights or montages where the Lee Sin will W or Safeguard to a ward and kick the enemy carry into his team for an easy kill. Note as well that using Lee Sin's W on yourself will give you a shield, and if you use it on an ally it will also give them the shield, but use it on a ward will not give you the shield. The cooldown of the ability is also halved if you use it on an ally or yourself. The second part of Lee Sin's W is Iron Will. Activating this will grant Lee Sin bonus lifesteal and spell vamp for 4 seconds. This means that all of Lee Sin's abilities and basic attacks will grant him a small amount of HP back. This allows him to sustain very easily in the jungle. The first part of Lee Sin's E is Tempest. It will cause Lee Sin to smash the ground and deal magic damage to all nearby enemies, also granting true sight for 4 seconds. Note that this ability deals magic damage but scales with bonus AD, so any extra items that you buy, for example Warrior or Black Cleaver, will actually increase the damage that this ability does. As long as Tempest hits an enemy, this means that it will be able to be recast as Cripple. Cripple then slows all enemies that it has been cast on. This slow lasts for 4 seconds but decays over the duration. The slow and damage that this ability provides makes Lee Sin's ganks in the early game pretty potent. It also makes champions such as Evelynn, Shaco and Twitch pretty easy to duel against, since they can't just go into stealth and then get the drop on you by having their cooldowns refreshed and coming out of stealth. And finally, Lee Sin's ultimate is Dragon's Rage. This is what Lee Sin is most known for. Lee Sin will roundhouse kick the target enemy champion, which deals physical damage and knocks them back over a distance for 1 second. Anyone who is hit by the champion that is flying through the air will also take damage, and will be knocked up for 1 second. Any champion which is hit by the target flying through the air will also take a percentage amount extra damage for the target's bonus health. So this might seem really confusing on how the damage is actually dealt by kicking someone into somebody else. In short, you can think of it as, by kicking someone into somebody else, the person who actually gets knocked up is basically taking damage from the kick as though you kicked them anyway, but they also take even more damage based on the person that you kicked as their bonus health. It's a bit confusing, but basically kicking someone into someone else, whoever gets knocked up, they take more damage, the person who you kicked just takes the kick damage. Basically just think of it like that. It's a bit confusing, you don't really need to know like the full ins and outs of it, but it does help. Basically you're rewarded for kicking tanks into squishies, just think of it like that. As for the leveling order on Lee Sin, this can vary from Lee Sin player to Lee Sin player, it completely depends. Although I'll give you my way and the pretty much general way, although if you look at some higher level Lee Sins, like some pro players, they'll maybe have some slight preferences that'll change. So as for how I do it is I start Q, which is what most Lee Sin players will do, and then I take W next for the sustain in the jungle, and the shield gives you healthier clears and also means at level 3 you'll have more HP. You then take E at level 3 so that you can gank as well. You have very strong level 3 ganks as Lee Sin, and your mobility does mean that you can also pick fights and choose fights whenever you want. But it can vary as well, you can also take E at level 2, but generally just follow what I'm showing on screen. You then want to max Q because it does deal more damage, it also lowers the cooldown so you have more mobility, and just typically it's a real nice ability to get around, it lets you do a lot of stuff. As for the second ability that you want to be maxing, this is going to be W, Safeguard. So this is a much safer way to play Lee Sin, as it will give you a stronger shield upon leveling the ability and also give you more lifesteal and spell vamp. The greater shield means that you can actually save yourself and allies, and also peel better since it gives them a shield, and save them from ignite and stuff like that. And you then want to be maxing E as your last ability, and of course take points in your R whenever you can. However, something that you can consider is maxing E second. You'll see a lot of high reload Lee Sin players and like challenger Lee Sin players, pro players, etc. They'll all be maxing E second on Lee Sin. Although as I mentioned before, I wouldn't really recommend doing this until you're actually comfortable on Lee Sin, since the shield that you do get and like general safety that you have with the champion is pretty negligible when you don't have your more points in your W. So as a little summary, you can think of it like this. So maxing W second means that you are much safer as Lee Sin, so if you're pretty uncomfortable on Lee Sin, you're just learning them out, learning his mechanics, stuff like that, you'll be much safer with a greater shield, more spell vamp, more lifesteal as well, and the higher shield you can give to yourself and allies. The Emax second is much more riskier and is more for players who understand Lee Sin more, so you know what you can do, what you can't do, and generally you're just less tanky, so you do need to be very careful. So as for the runes and masteries for Lee Sin, these can vary greatly. It completely depends on the Lee Sin player. You'll see some Lee Sin players, they'll run attack speed, some will run armor pen, some will run AD and armor pen, some will run AD and attack speed. It's completely differs from Lee Sin player to Lee Sin player, it's completely different. But what I'm showing you now is the cheapest rune page. You don't have to faff around with getting all these different specific runes and stuff like that. So you can just run the AD, armor and MR per level, or you can run flat MR as well if you do want. It's a very very cheap page, you just get you straight started with Lee Sin in the jungle, very easy and cheap to get started. And then if you do want later on, you can actually go find out specifics where you can go like Rush for example, run some armor pen, other Lee Sin players run attack speed quints and then AD reds and stuff like that, but for now you don't really need to worry about that. It's pretty negligible the amount of help it actually does give. Of course there's some, but you don't really need to worry about it that much. What we're interested in is really just learning Lee Sin and becoming a good Lee Sin player. As for masteries on Lee Sin as well, these can completely vary. You'll see two different schools, I guess, of keystones. So some Lee Sin players run Thunderlords and some of them run Strength of the Ages, which you're seeing on screen now. In my experience anyway, it comes down to complete preference. So if you like that extra damage and you just want to go complete aggro, you want to completely always be in all the lanes with that really irritating jungle that's just everywhere, all over the map, getting kills for the team, snowballing, etc., you can go for the Thunderlords. As for the Strength of the Ages based page, I would definitely recommend this one for the newer Lee Sin players when you're not really too sure on how to be playing it. It'll just give you more of a safety net as well, since you have more HP with the Strength of the Ages mastery. You also have the regen, the less damage from monsters and champion basic attacks, stuff like that. So generally just take this one if you're pretty unsure and just want to go for that mastery page. As for Lee Sin's general clear, you want to be looking for a camp buff sort of clear, so you'll be level 3 with double buffs and you can look for a gank either top or mid. So for example, you will start Krugs, do red and then do blue, or you will do Gromp, blue and then do red. Of course there are going to be variations to this, so you can even start at your red buff and then invade the enemy jungler from a red side, I believe it would be. So you will be, for example, against a Master Yi for example, and you can start red, and if he goes from Gromp to blue, you can invade him at level 2 with your E as well, and you can hopefully secure the first blood. Although generally, until you become more comfortable on Lee Sin as well with your duels and stuff like that, just follow the level 3 and then gank kind of playstyle. Another clear as well that I want to mention is starting on your buff but still getting level 3. So for example, you will start on red and then go to wolves and then blue, or on the opposite side you will be able to do blue, then raptors, then red. This will also make sure that you can avoid the enemy jungler invading you. For example, a Shaco or an Evelynn, an Udyr for example. If you're very worried about getting invaded, then you'll be able to do this and it'll mess up the timing of the invade, so you'll be completely on the opposite side of the jungle if they do try and invade you. So if they do try and invade you with this route, you're actually ahead of them, since they've come into your jungle, completely wasted their time when you're already either finishing your buff or you're looking for a gank already. So it's a little thing just to keep in mind if you are scared of the enemy jungler. It does work on any other jungle as well, doesn't have to be Lee Sin, so it's a little thing to keep in mind for when you are jungling. As you would have heard me previously mention, your ganks are actually quite strong on Lee Sin from level 3 with double buffs, so this little section is going to be about how to gank with Lee Sin and generally what you can be doing. So you will see a lot of newer Lee Sin players, I guess you could say. You will see a Lee Sin, say you're playing mid for example, he'll come into your lane, he'll just throw the Q at the enemy laner and he'll miss, and then it's like, well, your gank has failed. So what you really want to be doing on Lee Sin, you'll see this quite a lot, like the generally better Lee Sins will be doing this, so you'll want to walk up to the laner or ward jump, you can actually do that, up to the enemy laner and then E them for the slow, keep auto attacking them, and then either they'll flash away or they'll use a dash or whatever, and when you're right up to them, when you know the Q is going to be 100% guaranteed to hit, then throw the Q. That's what you want to be doing, because if you just walk into lane, so you come out the brush from mid, throw the Q, you miss it, then what are you going to do? You've messed up the gank, you can't really do anything. But this way as well, you will have the Q landed on the opponent 100%, you also got some damage down, either blown a flash or a dash for example, anything like that, so this is definitely a 100% better way to be ganking on Lee Sin. You can also be thinking of really creative ways to gank as well with your ult, so for example, on mid lane you can actually come from behind raptors and kick the enemy out of the tower and then Q them while they're in the air to escape the tower range, and stuff like that. You can also just walk into lane, flash kick them away into your enemy laner, stuff like that. You'll see some really crazy, really creative as well Lee Sin ganks as well, but I'll leave these up to you for you to decide, but typically don't throw the Q when you walk into lane, get as close as you can, make sure it's guaranteed. Now on screen you are going to see the general build for Lee Sin and also the assassin kind of playstyle that I mentioned. As for the assassin one, I wouldn't really recommend it. Again, just play it for fun, don't really take it into ranked, you can throw really easy as I mentioned. So anyway, the general build is one that I would recommend you playing. It's quite easy, you still do damage, you're quite tanky as well. So what you're going to be wanting to do is get warrior. This is your go-to enchantment. You will see some people going for Cinder Hulk, but this is more in pro play where you need to be tanky. They're just using the kick to set up like picks and stuff like that. So generally for solo queue though, be going for warrior because you do need some damage as well. As for the boots of swiftness are also really good on Lee Sin, although as well it is just a general placeholder, they can be interchanged, so you do not have to go for boots of swiftness. For example, if they have Morgana support, Fiddlesticks jungle, real heavy CC like Maokai top, then go for the Mercury treads. And again, same goes for if they're full AD, go for the Ninja Tabi for the extra tankiness against their AD comp. Now that your boot choices and your warrior enchantment are out of the way, generally you just want to be going tanky on Lee Sin. So you can pick up items like Dead Man's Plate, Randuin's Omen, Banshee's Veil, even Spirit Visage, Mora Malmordius, stuff like that. So typically, if you are snowballing as well, move the Black Cleaver. You can get that after your Warrior Enchantment and Boots, since it'll give you more damage, you'll be able to shred the armor of the targets, etc, stuff like that. As well, if there are magic damage threats, you can actually pick up more, although remember that this doesn't actually give you any HP, so you're still very, very squishy, and you need to watch out for the High Burst, because the shield proc isn't entirely like extra health that you would get from the Banshee's Veil. Again as well, the general itemization rules apply. If the enemy is full AD, don't go building more on Banshee's Veil, and as well, for example, say they have a fed mid but the rest of the team are AD, you can just pick up more and then go for your general armor items, so like Randuin's and Deadman's as well. You don't have to every single game have Banshees, Omen, Maw and Black Cleaver. It is just a general idea of what you can build. Those items do work very well though, and a general balanced team, you can go for something along those lines. As for the considerations on Lee Sin, we actually do have quite a few here. So I have put Sightstone there because you will see a lot of, if you do watch like high elo Lee Sin players in montages and like just either if you just watch their streams as well, you'll see quite a lot of challenger Lee Sin players will go Sightstone and then either pick up the Stalker's Blade or Skirmisher's Saber. So this is something that you can do, although I wouldn't really recommend it if you are learning Lee Sin. Typically as well, I don't actually do this. I do prefer the Tracker's Knife. It also does come down to preference as well, but with Tracker's Knife you're also saving gold, on getting the Sightstone, and then also having to build up, into Stalker's Blade, stuff like that, so you get it basically all in one. But I do see it as a preference thing, but of course you can, if you do want stronger ganks, you can go for the Stalker's Blade. If you're going to be dueling the enemy jungler, you can go for your Skirmisher's Saber, and then you obviously pick up the Sightstone later on. And although I find that this only leaves you with a trinket, I have tried this before as well, you are only left with the trinket for mobility, although I guess if you are a really good Lee Sin, you know exactly when you should be using your mobility and stuff like that. But typically having the Tracker's Knife and the regular trinket as well gives you a little bit of leeway with your wards, so you can use, throw down some wards for ward ops and stuff like that, getting over walls, making stronger ganks, etc, etc. So you will also see that I have put Yomu's Ghostblade down. So Yomu's Ghostblade is actually a really strong item on Lee Sin. I would only recommend this if you are snowballing pretty heavily, since it will give you armor pen and some extra AD plus the movement speed and attack speed from the active on the item. Although only get this item when you're against a squishy team. Be very careful about getting this against a tanky team, since you will have like a more or less useless item, if you want to call it that, since the armor pen, if they're stacking loads of armor anyway, isn't really going to help you that much, and Black Cleaver would have been more beneficial. But don't disregard this item or underestimate it anyway. It is incredibly strong at least if you are snowballing. If you do end up picking it up, just try it out in a normal game, go Warrior into Ghostblade, you will see the immense amount of damage that you actually do because the armor pen onto squishy targets. And now lastly as well, you will see the Hydra, so Ravenous Hydra. So this item is I actually really like this item on Lee Sin. It gives you really strong clears with the Tiamat. Now with the passive cleave as well, it gives you the AoE on the auto attacks just from the Tiamat rather than having to completely build it up into the Hydra. It also allows you to do a E-Hydra reset, so you can like E-Auto Hydra. It's like a real fast combo that you can do. It also opens up a lot of doors with the Hydra, just extra general damage output and AoE. The lifesteal is also really nice on the item. It can save you quite a lot, but typically I wouldn't really recommend going Hydra unless you're quite comfortable, since again, like Ghostblade, it will leave you very squishy. It doesn't give you any extra health like Black Cleaver does, or more with MR and AD as well. Lee Sin actually has a vast amount of combos which he can do. Since he's such a difficult and mechanically complex champion, there are a huge amount of ways to string his abilities together into combos. But in this section anyway, I'll be trying to go over some of the basic combos that you want to be able to do with Lee Sin, and stuff like the famous insect and stuff like that. So the first thing I'm going to show you is just the wall jump. You can call it a combo since it is a combination of buttons that you are pressing, which is what I'm going to say anyway. So just a simple wall jump. So you want to be able to get this down quite smooth anyway. You'll see the very good Lee Sins have got really smooth and fast wall jumps. So it's actually quite simple on paper. All you need to be doing is placing your ward and then pressing W. So whichever you have your ward binded to, so either your Tracker's Knife, your Sightstone or your Trinket, and then you just place it down and press W. So it does sound quite easy, but trust me, once you get to trying it, you'll notice how difficult it actually can be, and you will mess it up, trust me, but don't worry, just keep practicing, you'll definitely get it. This combo is the very famous Insect, so anyone who's heard of Lee Sin, seen Lee Sin highlights or anything like that, you would have seen Insect being done either in your game, in a highlight, on stream or anything like that. So this one is quite difficult to get down, so don't worry, you will mess it up, you will completely kick the wrong target, you'll mess it up, you'll not even jump to the ward, everything like that. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong with this combo, you'll be out of range to follow the Q, etc. But when you do get this combo, what you want to be doing, so you Q the target, you follow the Q, you then place the ward, jump behind them, and then you kick the target, so the enemy carry for example, into your team, so you'll kick them back into your team so they're out of position and then they just die. And of course, because this is Lee Sin, there is also multiple ways to do this. So there is another way. So typically, if you land a Q on a carry in a team fight, for example, so everyone's grouping mid or whatever, you land the Q onto the enemy vein, they're going to back up, they're going to be like, no, this Lee Sin's not going to go in on me. So generally what you can do as well, this is much more difficult though, I wouldn't really recommend trying this in live games, try this in bots, in normal games as well, try it in normal games, try it in bot games, make sure you get it down, but first get the regular Insect down, to a T before you try this one. So you throw the Q and land it on the enemy tank, so for example the Malphite who is stood in front of Vayne, you will then follow the Q onto the Malphite, but then you jump behind the Malphite for example, or to the side or wherever Vayne's going to be, making sure that you actually place yourself behind the enemy carry and then you kick them that way. This is a much more difficult way to anticipate where it's coming from, since generally enemy carries are going to be like, oh, he's hit the tank, he's not going to go in on that. So it's much more difficult, but it's very rewarding when you do land it. So the second combo that I'm going to be showing you is just simply Q, R and then Q. You can actually weave in an auto or E in there for example if you do want, but at the moment we'll just keep it really simple and just have it as Q, R, Q. So this means that you'll be placing your Q onto the opponent, you'll then kick them away and then you'll follow them as they're going through the air to deal the extra damage. The next combo is quite advanced actually. This will definitely take you quite a lot of practice to actually get down and actually be able to pull off in a ranked game or a normal game, just against actual people, so definitely practice this one in bots. So it will take a while, so don't worry if you are messing it up and stuff like that, because it does take some practice. So it's pretty similar to the QRQ combo, but you are adding the wall jump to get in closer to your target to actually be able to kick them. So remember, because your ult costs nothing, like no energy costs, it means you can actually do the kick and then follow the Q anyway. So what you want to be doing is landing the Q. So this is something that you do from like a bit further away, so you're not actually right next to your target and fighting them. So say they're like some squishy mage or something, and it'll finish them off or something like that. There's multiple ways that you can use this combo. So you land the Q and then you wall jump towards them, or you can actually flash as well. Either one works, but we'll use the wall jump for the combo kind of style of things. So you land the Q, wall jump towards them, then you kick them, and then you follow the second part of the Q. Because you have like the wall jump time as well, so when you're dashing into them like with the wards or the Q ward, you can actually land like an auto or E them as well, like E or and then kick them, stuff like that. So there is like little variations that you can do by weaving other abilities and auto attacks in as well. Another quick little combo as well, it's not entirely a combo, it's kind of like the flash R or R flash, but you can actually do it with your E as well. It's not entirely as useful, but it can be good if someone's not really expecting it, or you just want to instantly kill someone by landing on them with your E. It's like maybe you just want to surprise them with like E flash R or something like that. So you literally just press E and then you flash in the direction that you want to be landing. Really, really simple combo, and it can catch people off guard. So this combo is much simpler. So it's the variation of an insect, I guess you can call it. So you are still kicking the enemy carry into your team, but it's also much easier to do since you're pressing way less buttons and you're using flash instead. So there are two little ways to do this. So you can either flash and then press R, which is much more predictable since if a carry sees the flash, they might flash as well to stop you doing it. But then the much harder way as well, you'll need to get used to this one, is pressing R and then flashing behind the person so they don't really have any time to react. Although both these combos do achieve the same purpose, which is dispositioning an enemy carry, or for example you're kicking a tank into someone, for example, anything like that. The only difference between both of the combos is the actual amount of reaction time that the person has when you're going to kick them. And the final combo that I'm going to show you is going to be the Auto E Hydra, or you can do E Auto Hydra. Either way works, it doesn't really matter, it's just whichever way works for you, however you end up preferring to use it. So this is a really fast combo, and you will need the Tiamat or finish the Hydra to be able to actually do this combo. So actually it's a really fast damaging combo. You can also add your ult on the end of it as well as like kind of an execute kick. So you can do E Auto Hydra and then kick someone. It's like a really fast, it's like a triple hit combo kind of thing, and it does hit really hard. So that's pretty much all you want to do. As soon as you use your E, you want to make sure you use your Hydra active as well to cancel the sort of E animation, the rest of it, and then you go from there. And now moving on to the final section, which is just basically like a playstyle and general kind of just a little talk about Lee Sin, I guess. So generally what you want to be doing is remembering that Lee Sin is early game, although he isn't the best early game. People do make the mistake and think that Lee Sin is like, the god of early game jungling. Like if, for example, the enemy has like a Pantheon or something, they will kill you in a duel, so be careful of like invading them and thinking, oh, I'm playing Lee Sin, I can beat anyone, kind of thing, because it's just not true for it. So as well, like for example in Elise, if Elise lands a cocoon at level 3 from like, while you're off guard, she hits it from like a bush or something like that, you're gonna die. It's not like you just like she catches you off guard and you're like, oh, I'm playing Lee Sin, I'll be able to kill her. Like, it doesn't work like that. So you have to definitely remember that you are strong, but you're not like the strongest. Generally, Lee Sin's early strength actually comes from his high mobility, meaning that he can actually choose the fights that he wants to take. So Elise may be able to land that cocoon on you, but then you just ward hop away and you're like, see you Elise, we're not going to fight because I know you're going to win. So that's where his strength does come from, although his skirmishes and duels are quite strong as well. But also keep in mind that Lee Sin's 2v2 is actually quite strong. So for example, if you're like LeBlanc Lee Sin and like the enemy jungler ends up counter ganking your mid lane, don't be afraid to really fight it, because you are really like your kick, say at level 6, does quite a lot of damage. Like, it's like a 200 damage kick. It does quite a lot for a rank 1 ability, on top of any AD that you obviously have as well, any bonus AD of course. So you'll probably come out on top of quite a lot of 2v2 duels. And obviously later on this can kind of change, for example, if their mid laner is like scaling up, or like it's already a really strong fighter, for example, they have like a Zed who's just going to instantly kill your mid laner, and then it changes it into a 1v2, kind of, it's all kind of variable different things, but you got to think about this when you're in game, obviously. And one thing I really want to mention as well is Lee Sin isn't, like, you don't have to play him like this huge, big, flashy playmaker. Like, of course it is good if you can do that stuff, like, although remember as well that don't force plays. Forcing plays is one of the biggest downfalls of like a Lee Sin player. So for example, like, you land the Q, don't think, I believe it's called Lee Syndrome, it's like a little meme kind of thing, where you hit the Q and it's like, I have to go on this, like, I have to hit it, and it's that R. Kelly song that you have to, like, you have to just go in on that Q and make something happen. Like, you really don't have to like force something to happen. You can just leave it and like wait for your cooldowns and stuff like that. but that is definitely a really big downfall of a lot of Lee Sin players. It's like they try and force a play as well, which isn't there, and it can just really mess you up as well, so you need to be careful of that. Like, if a player's there, then you'll probably be able to do it anyway. Like, you'll definitely notice when the player's there, but if not, then don't try and force it. But that also leads me on to being able to talk about not being scared to like fuck up on Lee Sin, because Lee Sin, like, everyone knows he is like a real difficult champion to play. You will get flamed as well when you're playing Lee Sin. Like, you're not really sure what you're doing, you know, you're gonna mess up mechanically. Like, definitely you will mess up mechanically. No one's like perfectly mechanical on Lee Sin, so you will mess up, but don't be worried about it. That is exactly what the normal games are for. So if you are playing him in the normal games, like, you know, if someone flames you in a normal game for playing Lee Sin like poorly, like, just mute them. It doesn't even matter. Like, whatever, you're learning the champion anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. So it's better to fuck up in the normal games, and then you actually get it right in the ranked games, and it may win you a game. You never know. So for example, you might see some real awesome, like, you just see it in your head, like some montage play. You're going to kick the full tank Malphite into the entire 4-man, get a 5-man kick, and then, you know, you fuck it up and you like kick the Malphite away from the team, and it's like everyone's like, oh, noob Lee Sin, you know. It doesn't matter if it's a normal game, but then because you fucked it up in the normal game, you might see like a similar opportunity in your ranked game when you're more used to Lee Sin, and you actually get it right and you get like a quadra kill from the kick, you know, and then you like win the game because you actually practiced it in the normal. So just summary, don't be scared to fuck up on Lee Sin. You will fuck up, it's perfectly fine to do it. Practice makes perfect. Play Lee Sin is really fun, and I think that pretty much about does it for the guide. So I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. Hope it did help someone with Lee Sin. Maybe some of you guys will maybe buy Lee Sin, or if you already have him, make sure you maybe consider playing him in some normals, and maybe even taking him into ranked. Although definitely do practice, because you can mess up in ranked, and that's what we don't want. So I hope you guys do enjoy, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Do you want to see more? We'll see you guys in the next video.